Imagine a hospital faking the lab results for 247 children, deliberately hiding that they were suffering from severe lead poisoning. This horrifying local cover-up is just one piece of the puzzle, because at the exact same time, a naked power struggle is guarding the top command of China's military. One is a crisis of public safety, the other, a crisis of political loyalty. Together, they signal a much deeper challenge to the state's authority. Welcome to China Decoded. Today, we are opening two very different but interconnected case files. Our first case file takes us inside the highest echelons of one of the world's most powerful military forces. The official story is one of the renewed discipline and loyalty. But the facts on the ground suggest a much more complex picture. Our second case file brings us down to the most local level, a single kindergarten. It's a story about public trust and what happens when the most basic systems of safety and oversight appear to break down. Taken together, these two stories, one from the pinnacle of power and one from the grassroots of society, raise the critical question: how deep do the fault lines in the system truly run? Let's connect the dots. For the past 2 years, there have been signs of a significant ongoing shakeup within China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA. But recent events have brought the situation into much sharper focus. On July 21st, 2025, the PLA's official newspaper published a notice from the Central Military Commission. It announced a new 22-point regulation designed to, and I'm quoting from the official text, comprehensively cleanse poisonous influence and reshape the image and the authority of political officers. The directive demands absolute political loyalty. Now, on its own, a document about strengthening discipline might seem like a routine housekeeping, but here's where it gets interesting. This push for loyalty is happening against a backdrop of high-profile disappearances and removals. Let's review the evidence chain. Fact number 1. This new loyalty directive comes after a prolonged period of turbulence. Starting in 2023, the PLA's rocket force, the unit responsible for the country's missile arsenal, was the center of a major corruption scandal. That probe implicated dozens of generals, including 2 former defense ministers, Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe. Fact number 2. The tremors have now reached the very top of the command structure. Miao Hua, a member of the Central Military Commission and the head of its political work department, was removed from his post in June. And He Weidong, a vice chairman of that same commission, has not been seen in public since late March, leading to widespread speculation that he's also under investigation. Fact number 3. All of this is happening now with the release of public documents demanding loyalty and calling to eradicate negative factors that damage the military's image. So, when you see these pieces on the board, a major anti-corruption probe, the removal of top-tier commanders, and a simultaneously public campaign to enforce political loyalty, you have to ask, does this paint a picture of routine stability, or does it suggest something more significant is in motion behind the scenes? Mainstream analysis remains cautious, but some observers are putting forward a much bolder theory. This is where we turn to the brief source technique. Analysts at the Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research, who monitor the PLA closely, have characterized this situation not as a simple anti-corruption drive, but as a naked power struggle. Researcher Shen Mingshi suggests these factional competitions playing out at the highest level. Another analyst from that institute, Su Ziyun, uses a particularly striking analogy. He described the state apparatus as being like a Swiss cheese, riddled with holes. His assessment is that attempting to patch up a problem in one area, whether it's loyalty or corruption, often just exposes a weakness somewhere else. The core of this analysis is that when officials are not selected through a transparent process, the system can become vulnerable to cycles of patronage and purges. So the key takeaway from this case file isn't just about who's in or who's out. It's about the potential for deep, systemic instability within the critical branch of the state. The ultimate question is whether these moves will succeed in creating the absolute loyalty Beijing desires, or if they are simply symptoms of a much deeper challenge to central authority. Now let's pivot from the ramified era of high command to a story that is profoundly more grounded and in many ways more disturbing. This is the case of the brownstone patient kindergarten in Tianshui City, Gansu Province. And here, we'll use stakes, not adjectives technique. We don't need to use charged language because the facts themselves reveal the gravity of the situation. The official investigation recently concluded, and here's what it found. The kindergarten's director and an investor, in an effort to make the food look more appealing to children and parents, made a decision. They purchased industrial-grade pigments, clearly marked not for consumption, and instructed the kitchen staff to add them to the children's meals, foods like steamed sponge cake or corn sausage buns. Let's look at the real-world impact of this policy. Subsequent testing of the yellow pigment found its lead content was as high as 209,890 milligrams per kilogram. To put that in perspective, that is more than 2,000 times the acceptable safety standard. This decision led to 247 children and 28 staff members suffering from elevated lead levels in their blood. But the story doesn't end there. This is where a localized failure of judgment cascades into a systemic failure of oversight. Let's build another evidence chain. Fact number 1. Parents began noticing troubling symptoms in their children: nausea, hair loss, leg pain, and difficulty concentrating. They took their children to the local Tianshui No. 2 People's Hospital. The hospital's diagnosis for the blood lead level was normal. Fact number 2. The parents, sensing something was wrong, traveled to a major hospital in a neighboring province capital, Xi'an. There, doctors delivered a very different diagnosis: severe lead poisoning. Fact number 3. The official investigation later confirmed that the Tianshui hospital had, on 2 separate occasions, deliberately altered the children's blood reports, changing abnormal data to normal. The Provincial Center for Disease Control was also found to have committed serious violations in its own retesting process. So, when you see a chain of failure this complete, from a kindergarten's kitchen to a city hospital to the provincial health authorities, it raises a powerful question. This isn't just about few bad actors. It's about a breakdown in the very systems of regulation and accountability that citizens rely on for their most basic safety. While authorities have now made arrests and opened investigations into more than 20 officials, some observers believe the case was concluded hastily. The concern is that the investigation remained narrowly focused on the kindergarten, avoiding deeper questions about the regulatory environment for food additives and the culture of oversight that allowed this to happen. So let's step back and look at our 2 case files. In the first, we see a sweeping top-down effort to enforce loyalty and control within the military's command structure. It's a story about power at the highest level. In the second, we see a catastrophic bottom-up failure of governance, where local institutions tasked with protecting children allegedly falsified data to hide a public health crisis. On the surface, they seem unrelated, but they both point to the same fundamental challenge: the difficulty of ensuring integrity and effective governance across a vast and complex system. Whether it's rooting out functionalism among generals or ensuring a local hospital tells the truth, the core issue is the same. And this leaves us with the final lingering question. Will you see cracks appearing in both the fundamental pillars of national security and the grassroots trust in local institutions? Are these isolated incidents, or are they signals of a deeper, systemic stress test that is now unfolding? That's all for today on China Decoded. Thanks for watching. Behind the slogans, beyond the surface. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. See you in the next one.